guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Quori-Tyler, aka QT, and today we are talking about the 7 books I read in January. Here are the books that I read in January. I did 5 physical books, 1 Kindle, and 1 audiobook. This is my first time listening to an audiobook full through without reading it at all. I've done audiobook before with like bigger books, some of Sarah J. Maas's books, and it was a pretty interesting experience. We will talk about it when we get there, but yeah, I'm just going to run through the books I read, let you know my ratings on them, and kind of what I was thinking as I was reading them. If you're interested in keeping up with what I'm reading in real time and my thoughts and raw emotions, follow me on my bookstagram account at bookswithqt and on Goodreads, because I update everything on Goodreads. Every time I read one single page, you will find out about it on Goodreads. We're going to go in chronological order. So I started off January by reading None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I literally started this book on January 1st, so it was my first thing of 2024, which was an interesting way for me to start because I'm a romance girly through and through, and I just recently started adding fantasy, but I seriously do not read mystery thrillers. I just get so scared. I especially cannot read them in the nighttime. I get bad dreams. Like, it's really bad. I hate mystery thriller, but I was intrigued by the story, and this was a really great, eerie one that I seriously could not read at night, but when I was reading it in the daytime, it was great. First, let's talk about the structure of the book. Sentence structure of it was very fragmented. It wasn't necessarily melodic to read and beautiful to read, but I don't think I'm looking for that in a mystery thriller anyway. As it was fragmented, it kept it a little bit intriguing and like eerie. I kind of felt like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? Because she would write like, she walked into the bathroom, she pulled the towel off the rack, she started washing her body. It was very like, what's gonna happen next? I can't wait to see what the next sentence was, but it was a little hard to read because of that. So it's about this podcaster who meets her birthday twin. They're both at the same restaurant on the same day celebrating their birthday, but they have completely different lives. The girl who's not a podcaster basically tells the podcaster, like, you need to interview me. I have a crazy story. There's crazy things that are about to change and happen in my life, and it would be an interesting story. And then the podcaster basically like is intrigued by her, and they start having a little bit of a working relationship together. Lines get blurred, things get crazy. It's wild. It actually is very interesting and keeps you intrigued the whole time. What I liked about this book is that it was written dual timeline in a way. So basically we're reading the story as it's happening in real time through the perspectives of the 2 main characters, but then we're also getting excerpts from a Netflix special that they made about the situation that goes on in the story. It's like you're almost watching a Netflix documentary, but then also seeing it in real time, and then you kind of have to decide like what's true. None of this is true, hence the name. But yeah, it was a very interesting way to start off my year of reading, and I'm glad that I read this book, and I would definitely recommend it. Next up, like I said, I am a romance girly through and through, so after reading a mystery and thriller, I decided I needed a cutesy romance, and I started the Chestnut Spring series with the first book, Flawless. This series is by Elsie Silver, and last year, I feel like last spring is really when it got so much hype. I never picked it up. I wasn't necessarily interested in cowboy romance, but then I read Done and Dusted a few months ago, and I was like, wait, maybe I do like a cowboy romance. So I decided to start the series. I really enjoyed this book. This was enemies to lovers, about this cowboy, this bad boy cowboy, and this girl goes to his small town and ends up having to be like his babysitter to make sure he doesn't do anything bad that the press will get a hold of. You can imagine where the story goes from there. I will say, now that I've continued on in the series, this was not my favorite one of the series just because I didn't feel connected to it, and it's a little bit forgettable. Like, even me explaining to you what happens in the story, I have to like really think to myself like, wait, what did I read about? Because there was just nothing that grasped me necessarily. Loved the intro to the series. I love the town that they're in. I loved family that they have. Like, I love the elements of the storyline. That's what makes me excited to continue reading on. And so right after I read Flawless, I went to Heartless. Now, Heartless I read on my Kindle, so I don't have the physical book here. I tried to get the physical book in Barnes & Noble, but could not find it anywhere, so I just read it on my Kindle. All of the Chestnut Spring series, by the way, is on Kindle Unlimited, so if you don't want to buy it, you can just read it on Kindle Unlimited. And let me tell you, absolutely loved Heartless. This one was single dad trope. This is my first time reading a single dad trope, and it was nanny trope. I don't know if that is that a trope. I just see a lot of books are like single dad nanny, so that's what this one was, if that's something you're interested in. This is my first time reading it. I didn't think I'd be interested in it because, like, who cares, kind of, right? Like, it just seems so niche, so I'm surprised that there's a lot of books about that. But anyways, to get back to the story, it was Grumpy Sunshine. I loved our female main character in that book. I also really liked the male main character, even though he was grumpy, because we were seeing things from his perspective as well. It gave a lot more context into why he acts the way he acts. And he was just so sweet to the female main character. So beautiful story. I absolutely ate that one up. The third book, I started a little bit when I was on a plane to New York a few weeks ago, but then never picked it back up, but I'm excited to get back into it. Third one is Powerless. That one is Friends to Lovers. Friends to Lovers is my absolute favorite trope in all of the world. I think it's the best trope in every single book should be Friends to Lovers. I'm excited to like really get into that. I think that's going to be my first 5-star of the series. So after we read Flawless, I decided to switch up genres again because I'm always switching up on you. And we started Throne of Glass. Now, let's talk about the decision to read Throne of Glass first. If you don't know, Throne of Glass is a series by Sarah J. Maas. I read all of Court of Thorns and Roses series and absolutely ate it up, loved it so much, left no crumbs. Then I decided I need to get into Throne of Glass because every single person on my bookstagram is talking about Throne of Glass and saying I need to read it. Here's the controversy. Throne of Glass was the first book published in the series. There's another book called Assassin's Blade that was published later on in the series, but apparently Sarah J. Maas wrote that book first, and it's a bunch of novellas put together, and it's kind of like a prequel to the book. In the whole series, we're following Selena, who is an assassin, and in Assassin's Blade, you get her backstory. But people who have read the whole series say that you should read Assassin's Blade first and Throne of Glass second. I decided I was going to flip a coin to tell me if I should read Throne of Glass first or Assassin's Blade first. And let me tell you something about that coin.
That coin played me.
Coin said I should read Throne of Glass first, and so I just did. And I was like, you know what? How bad can it be? I started this book and I really liked it. Then about halfway through, I realized I couldn't care less about these characters. I was not invested at all in Selena and Dorian and any of the other characters I was reading about. I had no vested interest in them, and because of that, it slowed the story down a lot for me, and I kind of was just like over it. There's a lot of world building, but then there's also not much fantasy yet, especially in this book, because kind of the whole premise of this book is that the world that she's in, or like the city she's in, banned magic for years. No one can use any magical powers or whatever, so we're not really getting fantasy. This like really like I don't know how to tell all of you this because people are obsessed with this book and people are going to come for me in the comments, but this is not a fantasy book. There was no fantasy in it until the very end, and even that was like, what's going on? I just felt so confused by the end of this. I'm not going to get too deep into my thoughts about the whole book because I actually did a reading vlog that you can watch, my Throne of Glass reading vlog, where I really break down my feelings like chapter by chapter. It's a spoiler-free vlog, but at the end of the vlog, I have all my spoiler thoughts. So if you read this book and you want to hear my spoiled thoughts, go to that video, go to the end of the video. You'll see it has like a little spoiler border around it. I'm going to continue the series, but I just want to say like we're not starting off too strong. I have to be honest about that. I gave this book a 3.5 star, and 3.5 is generous. I should have given it a 3, but I gave it a 3.5 because I believe we have potential. Take that with a grain of salt if you're deciding to read this, but I recommend, even though I haven't even read Assassin's Blade yet, if you haven't started the series, start with Assassin's Blade. You're going to connect to Selena so much more. I can guarantee you. I can guarantee you. After Throne of Glass, I decided I needed a fluffy book again. Can you tell that like I get very bored with the genres I'm reading? I go from one genre to the next, back to the other one. Like I can't just stay with the same genre. So next I went to Night Shift. Now this was a very fluffy romance book. It is a Wattpad book. I also did a reading vlog with this book in it, and I said in that one, I am not a Wattpad girly. I can't even really tell you what Wattpad is. I just know it's an app that you can download on your phone and you can read fluffy, silly little stories. And that's exactly what this book was. Nothing too deep, nothing too crazy. If you're looking for a palate cleanser and you just need a quick book to read, this is your book. It's about college students. So it's a girl who works at the library in her school. She's very like a little bit, trigger warning, pick me energy. So like the book starts off with her kind of just being like, oh, I don't like to go to parties. I'm a loner. I stay home all the time. But then like she switches up a little bit, things get crazy. The love interest is the like top basketball player at the university. He was really sweet. I loved him as a book boyfriend. Only thing is it's a little bit insta-lovey, like it was giving very much how did we get here. But if you look past that, sometimes when you're in a book you just have to look past certain things, I feel like. And when I was reading this book, I had to look past the fact that they had only hung out one time and all of a sudden they were in love, and then I was able to enjoy it. Night Shift, a great fluffy little palate cleanser. Then I ended the month with my favorite book, and I read this book a week ago and haven't picked up another book until yesterday because I was just like, how can you ever pick up a book right after you read a book in this series? Daisy Hates The Great Undoing. So this is the last book so far in the Magnolia Park series, but there's another one coming out on February. It's either 13th or 15th. I think I keep saying the wrong date. But this was the latest Daisy Hates book. It's the 4th book in the Magnolia Park series that I'm obsessed with. Again, I did a reading vlog with this book in it, so I won't get too deep into the weeds. But just know, Jessa Hastings has a beautiful way of breaking my heart that makes me love her. That just doesn't make sense to me, but it is what it is. Daisy Hates is my favorite character out of all of the Magnolia Park's universe. I just connect with her so much. I feel like I relate to her in some ways. I don't know. I'm just like so obsessed. There's not much I can say about this one without giving away spoilers because it is the 4th book in a series. So if you haven't read the series, like, what are you doing? I feel like anyone can read Magnolia Parks, whether you're a new reader, you've read for forever, you love romance, you hate romance, like there's something for everyone within the series and you just have to give it a shot. Loved Daisy Hates Great Undoing. It left on such a cliffhanger that I'm like, I need the next Daisy Hates book immediately or I'm gonna cry. And then the last book that we'll talk about, it's a book that I was listening to while I was reading Daisy Hates. I actually listened to this only when I was in the car, going somewhere, working from home. It was Thank You for Listening. It was a great audiobook because the book is about a girl who is an audiobook narrator. So that was really fun. That's why I thought it was a good book for me to listen to on audiobook fully through. And I had a great experience. It was so much fun. One thing I will say is some parts maybe got like a little bit boring or a little bit dragged out, but it was a very well-rounded book. So much happens in it. It's so much more than just a love story. Really, like, love story was the trope at the bottom of the list. It was more of like a literary fiction with romance in it because we had like life, grief, love, family, happiness, all these different things combined into one book. And I think the author did a beautiful job of making it all kind of connect and intersect through one person's life. It felt like a real book with real emotions and real things that happened. There were some tough things that the main character went through. It almost felt like the main character understood me in a way. Not that I've been through any of the things that she has been through, but it just felt like she had a real raw life that, like, yeah, sometimes crazy bad things happen to you, but like, how do you get through those things? So those were the 7 books that I read in January. I'm so excited. My Goodreads goal for the year is to read 75 books. Last year I read a little under 50, so I felt like 75 was doable. And based on my calculations, I have to read 6 books per month in order to get there. And I really think I can. I read 7 books this month and that was like easy for me. Like I could have easily added 1 or 2 more books in there. So I'm going to try. February's a short month, but I'm going to try to do 7 again. And then maybe in March, I don't know, we'll see. But I'm excited. I started out my year really good with reading and I'm just so happy to be a part of this community. I also just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has been keeping up with me on social media and has been interested in any of my book thoughts, watching any of my videos, whether it's on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. My Instagram, oh my gosh, yesterday it actually just hit 10,000 followers, which is so crazy to me because I haven't even been on there for a year yet, and it just makes me so happy. I love creating. First of all, I love creating content, and then I also love creating book content. I love reading, so like combining all of those things together is just like so magical, makes me so happy, and I just love this little community that we have online, the book community. So thank you guys so much for being interested in me, keeping up with me, and all that good stuff. Comment below your favorite book that you read this month. I want to know. I want to know what I need to add to my February TBR. I think that's it. So I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.